Hello, everyone. Welcome to Embodied Liberation through the Minor Arcana. Today, we'll be diving into why I feel this part of tarot is especially important in these times to help us tap into our sensory supports and guidance, especially during these times of change and transformation. And just briefly tuning in to where we are, I just invite us to ground in to our bodies, our breath, time and space. And with that, extending our awareness, gratitude, reverence towards the Indigenous stewards, past, present, and future of the land we live on. And just holding that in your heart. Thank you. So, our theme of embodied liberation through divination, through the minor arcana specifically, is the part that I'll be talking about and focusing on today, but it's under this general umbrella of divination, right? Which is a category of tools that we can use for reflection, deepening our intuition and our embodied experience. So, to me, and there's many ways to define and work through practicing creating liberatory lives and liberatory ways of living. But one way I like to look at it, and I'll be focusing on today, is how true liberation is about remembering, reclaiming, and reintegrating our multifaceted wholeness and interdependence. Here we'll be exploring how we can embody belonging beyond the bigotry and bureaucracy that we're seeing always, but especially now. And we do this through our intersectional and interconnected relationships. So, the minor arcana to me is a starting point, a foundation where we can begin from what I think is the most important and essential layer, um, which is starting with our senses, starting with ourselves and the day to day, what's seen as mundane, and really honoring and remembering the magic and power and potency in the embodiment possible in that. And from there, it ripples out to the continued practice and pursuit of liberation for all. So, just a little about me. Well, a lot of words, but I'll just make this brief. I am Rachel Amber. I use they or she pronouns. I am a visual and poetic, oh, I don't like that, artist, eco-mystic, and self-published print designer, and also an embodiment facilitator and space holder. So, yeah, what this looks like for me is I design printed goods that are not just products, but really help us reconnect to our senses, our bodies, our awareness, our autonomy and ability to get to know ourselves and therefore remember our connections, our intersectionality with one another and nature, that we're not separate from this earth, the elements, this cosmos. So that's a lot of what my work revolves around, and it takes the form of journals, guided practice sessions, biweekly practice circle or membership that I host. Illustration and design is my heart language, so that's what I work through, and bringing these into physical or accessible forms for us. And newly, that is my Embodied Ecosystems Tarot deck, which is where the art and images that you'll be seeing today as we go through the Minor Arcana are from. And all of my work is rooted in earth-based lineages and a reverence for the multifaceted existence within all of us. But yeah, honoring both ancestral roots of mine and non-ancestral roots with respect and permission. So, all right. So I like to think of my little segment here as bringing our shadow work into the soil of our soul, of ourselves. And the census feels like that for me. It's like the tactile, nature. And you're getting a little glimpse here of how I envision and make those connections in the system I use in my deck, which is not separate from the whole tarot system, as you'll see, the origins. And so, if the minor arcana is not limited to, but is focused on our day-to-day interactions, our evolution, what's seen as mundane, it's actually rooted in the elements of self, the other and whole. We know this through the elements associated with each of the suits, which we'll go over today and dive deeper into because there's so much within that. It can just feel like this top level awareness, but it's really integral to me. And so I center that in my work in my deck, and I don't think it's secondary to the majors. I think this is the path to there, and a lot of other tarot workers and readers and artists know this too. But yeah, I see it as the essential foundational work that we're doing every day, and the more we can remember and tap into that, um, the more little by little we can come to that awareness and wholeness that is present but not always felt, right? So I think that bringing the interpretations, intuitive, analytical, and beyond of tarot back into the body, integrating through the senses and beyond is like really integral and important, because when it just stays in the head, it can get lost, or it can yeah, the body doesn't get a chance to really work with it. And so that's not a pressure. That's just a reminder that we deserve time and space to practice this, because it's definitely a practice. And and it also involves a layer of trust. Like sometimes we're just letting it doesn't need to make sense to us in the moment what we're working with in a card pull, for example, right? So letting ourselves just tune into the somatic layers, the sensitive, subtle layers, right? And so this is a side by side of the Smith Rider Waite Minor Arcana, 1 through 10s, aces through 10s, and my deck. And so this theme is definitely present. Um, I mean, I interpreted these shapes and symbols, which definitely, I'm not claiming them as only my own, but this is what I came up with, and I feel like there's echoes of this in sacred geometry and other, um, yeah, other practices and systems I've worked with. So this is what has culminated from that. And you can kind of see this like singular to expansive, interconnective reflection of these shapes in the cards and how it goes, I think, from personal, working with the self or the close, intimate ones, from the surface to within, into more relational and communal and collective layers. I cut off the court cards on this one just for space. And because some people focus on ace through tens, the court cards are part of the minor arcana, of course, but they're also kind of their own pocket, but I'll cover them in a little bit too. And I see the minor arcana as our embodied evolution, the evolvement of our our practices, our awareness. And oh yeah, these are a little out of order, but it's okay. And so, yeah, the numbers and shapes are the ways that we are relating through the elements. So, for example, like the Two of Wands is the way we are relating to duality within the element of fire and light. And if we bring that into our bodies, which in my deck, that suit focuses on our sight, our insight, so the ocular system and the pineal gland, and whatever other parts of the brain and body are linked to imagination, envisioning, and subconscious exploration and creativity. So this, I'm not going to read through this, but this is an overview of how I interpret the numbers and their evolution in the minor arcana. Feel free to pause that if you needed. And so, yeah, the suits as sensory elements. This is implicated in all of in all tarot decks that follow the Smith Rider Waite or foundational structure. Yet, oh, I'm missing one here. That's okay. But I wanted to more explicitly link this to the body and really focus in on the elements and the senses that I see these elements reflected through in our bodies. So it's not, this isn't a limitation or a separation. I do want to remind us it's a focus. So each suit is just a focus on these parts of the body, not in isolation. And it's not limited. Of course, we can feel stability beyond this, these parts of our bodies, beyond this system, but, and so on for the others. Yet this is where I think it's powerful to tap into it. And this will come into more clarity in these next slides as I go through each element. So our suit of earth, our element of stability, is the suit of pentacles. It's our sense of stability through touch, our musculoskeletal and skin systems. It's the meaning of matter. It's our primordial earthen foundations. So the entry point for the element of touch is our suit of pentacles, our earth suit in any tarot deck, or the suit of stability in the Embodied Ecosystems tarot deck. And then the, so interesting that's not showing up, but I'll just keep going. The suit of water and fluidity is the suit of cups. And here, the image that should be here is this one. And so it's our sense of fluidity through taste and feeling and beyond, through our emotions, our circulatory and digestive systems, and the energy within all that that's reflected. It's the waters and vital organs of all ecosystems. So how we relate, how we feel, how we emote and empathize is the suit of water, of cups, and in the Embodied Ecosystems deck, fluidity. Good. And then we have the suit of swords, air, and awareness in the Embodied Ecosystems deck. It's our sense of awareness through breath and listening, sound and smell. It's our nervous system, auditory and respiratory system. And it's the atmosphere and wind around and within. So in all of these, we see echoes of the world outside of us, the world that we are a part of within, that we are born from, and how these reflect in our bodies. Yeah. And then firelight. And so what should be here on the left, just to refresh your memory, is the eye. And so, sorry, probably jumping around, our suit of wands, firelight, transformation, the sense of transformation through our sight and insight, what we vision and envision, our ocular systems and our pineal gland, the fire and light of all ecosystems. And so, like, our perspective, the layers of all that we see, and also including what we can't see, but we can envision and sense. And so, that was an overview of the suits. And now, just dialing it back a little to the aces again. The aces are our sensory signals. They are that access point I was talking about, that first line of remembrance for me, because they're all accessible resources readily available on our bodies at all times. And yes, of course, we will all have different relationships with these senses, different levels of ability and intensity with these senses. And so just honoring that, because I don't know your experience, and it's an evolution. It's a journey of relating, and that's always changing. So just being present with these concepts with, you know, full autonomy to take what resonates and leave the rest, and adjust, knowing that your senses shape and show how it makes sense to you, and that's beautiful and perfect. So there's no right or wrong here. So yes, I see these as embodiment invitations. So the ways of touch, how we tether through tactility and texture. And so readily available, our own skin. The hands do so much for us, and they're often focused around and outside of us. And so, just the power of placing hands on your body or using them for self massage or tapping or covering your eyes, whatever, like, is very powerful. And then, of course, you know, being present with the sense of touch with pets or loved one, of course, consensually, um, plants or grass, or it's funny that I put grass because, um, yeah, all plants, natural lawns, and moss and clover. Um, and then, yeah, just like fidget toys or prayer beads or stones, like anything that helps you ground into that tactile physicality that is not something to bypass. It feels to me like one of my first layers of remembering that I'm in a body, and that's a gift, even when it doesn't always feel like it, right? And then the water element, of course, taste. And I also consider like taste, because we can look at the senses in their literal way, but we can also look at them in a more energetic way of like, okay, anything that flows through us or circulates. So I almost put feeling here too, but anyways, it can be expansive, and that shows itself in the deck and in the full suits, but we're just touching the first base right now. Gotta remind myself that. So taste and just our fluidity and liquidity, like just our saliva and our mouths, as that remembrance that there's so much moving and flowing through us. And yeah, how we eat, how we drink, and how that can often just be taken for granted, or done quickly when we're hungry, which, totally fair, no judgment here. But just those reminders of tuning into drinking, eating, connecting with that nourishment and hydration, in a present way, but also just the act of having a glass of water nearby, like, and not needing to be like super intentional, mindful about it, but like that practice of having that resource nearby for your body, or just noticing when you're thirsty, like that's a sensory signal. And these are simple, starting points don't need to be um, that don't need to be complicated, yet also not underestimated, because it's easy to forget these things in our very intentionally distracted world, distractible world. And then smell and sound, the air element, and yeah, so any sort of aromatic or auditory awakening, just calling it a fun word, a fun phrase. And so music, incense, candles, like also the absence of sound or the boundaries of sound, like silencing your devices or having it off, like it's such a gift when I can like put my phone on silent for a few hours, especially when I'm like intentionally trying to focus on something, bringing attention to your breath. These are all available access points. Of course, I have on these lists some things that are resources not just within ourselves, but music, it's like it can be playing something online or from a record, or it could just be sounding. I forgot to put like sounding here and humming, or singing your own song, working with an instrument. So using your body as a musical instrument. There's many creative ways. These are just suggestions, ideas, starting points. And then firelight, our sense of sight, visual cues. This one is huge for me. And sometimes this is the thing that gets me to remember these other these other ones. Not that we always have to be doing all of these, of course, but I'm a very visual person. I'm neurodivergent, so whether it's a note that in big letters that reminds me to do something, or it's this drawing on my wall, this message to myself, something I wrote on my bathroom mirror, a candle that keeps my attention and curiosity present, adjusting the lighting in the room to fit my needs, or covering my eyes occasionally to give my eyes a break, you know, and then also putting things out of sight. Like sometimes the visual clutter, I can't always get to all of it, but like the difference between my phone being right in front of me and over there or in a drawer is huge. So Yeah, I invite you to experiment with these or think of your own, make your own lists, and just explore. Mhm. And then the court cards, as I said, I'd get to the court cards in my deck, and I didn't bring the Smith Rider-Waite ones here, so you can look them up or have them in mind. But mine are quite different because they're focused still on they're still related in the context of their archetypes and their meanings, but the visuals, of course, are different. And I see these as landscapes of relationship. I really wanted to um, debunk the hierarchies, the royal focus, the gender roles and norms, and just focus on the modalities, the elements, the relationships within these cards because they're they're bridges to relating and being within all our senses, just subconsciously, just by being present and being our full selves. And so I call the pages in my deck the vessels through the elements because they embody the earth, the first layer, the spark of being present with and grounding into what is. The knights are the navigators. They are open to movement and compromise and going between. The swan, the pages are and vessels are more about self-preservation as a foundational layer, and the knights are more about opening up into a different, more external way of expanding from there, from that resourcing. And then the queens are the teachers. They have the capacity to share and the desire to create ripples and make connections and threads. And the kings are conduits, further weaving the web and um, channeling through interdependent awareness and wisdom. So these archetypes live within all of us. They're just different viewpoints of them. And these are just some little reminders of working with the pages in any deck as relational role models. I see them as ancestral wisdom held in our interconnected existence, and the page of Pentacles is our reminder to ground. The Page of Cups is our reminder to flow, and in all of these is like this great permission to let ourselves access grounding, flow, choice for the wand, Page of Wands, and change for um, change and perhaps even like unknowns in the Page of Swords. And there's little reminders here, which I'm just going to leave for you to read on your own time. And there's just a graphic of all the elements together, but you'll see it if you access this PDF, which is my gift to all of you to help support the integration of this material. I went through it in a way that was hopefully brief enough to be an overview, but of course, there's um, at your own time and pace, you're welcome to sit with this and absorb it, practice with it. And so that's what this PDF is for with you. There's one page that's sensory signal reminders, which was an earlier slide. So you can print that if you want and have that out as yeah, something to work with and practice with. There's also one for this last slide with our reminders from our relational role models, the court cards. And then there's a tarot spread and prompts for you to practice tuning into the senses that want your attention and relating to all the senses in an embodied way and letting this be a layer of support for continued um, evolution and practicing and pursuing liberation. So yeah, this is a PDF that you can download. You can just go through here um, and this will bring you to a sign up form. It's just to my email list, and then you'll get access to my whole free library. And then within there, under the journaling prompts and tarot spreads section, once you're logged in, you'll have to like create a password. Um, you'll get these prompts, and you can totally unsubscribe from my emails right after. And yeah, the account and password is all free. All this is free. It's just hosted on my website, and then you can download it from there and use it as you please. So, and then yeah, I just wanted to mention my deck, the Embodied Ecosystems Tarot and Oracle deck that I've been mentioning and working from throughout this. So of course there's more in there, and then the major arcanas I didn't even go into, which are animal allies and archetypes for my deck. And this tool is really, it goes, of course, into all that we covered today, but in a lot more depth. And the guidebook is 300 pages in full color, and it has prompts and practices for every card, and fuller descriptions to help you integrate. So this is available if you're interested. So thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for showing up with curiosity and openness for yourself and all. Please take what resonates and leave the rest, as always. And yeah, I'd love to stay in touch. If you'd like to stay connected, I have a website, which is also my shop and where that library lives that you'll get free access to. There's a lot of good stuff in there, but I don't want you to get overwhelmed. So just focus on that PDF for now if you'd like. And yeah, more about me here. I share occasional poetry and art and musings on my Substack, which is also free. And then if you're interested in practicing together on um, branches of what we covered today, I host a biweekly eco embodiment practice space called Remembership, and I keep it as affordable as possible. And you can come and go as you please. And it's just a space focused on remembering together as a group who we are, where we come from, and all the resources we have access to within and around our bodies. So they're simple somatic and embodiment practices, and it's just a really helpful space of accountability and togetherness. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you again for being here, and I hope to stay connected, and I will talk to you soon. Be well.